individuals laughed in my face, like, who, you? You're a pilot? But that did not discourage me. That actually
Motivate.
drove me more because I knew that this is something I wanted to do. I knew I can do it as well as anyone else.
Like, subscribe, and share to Voices of Linden TV.
Well, from our hometown of Linden to soaring the worldwide skies, please welcome on our show today, Venessa Kelsick. Vanessa, welcome, welcome. It's so good to see you after so many years. So share with us some of the younger years of growing up in Linden.
First of all, let me start with Kamaka because, as I say, I'm not just a Linden girl. My roots actually began in Kamaka, where I grew up alongside the Demerara River, bathing in the river, enjoying, as I like to say, the bush life. not the Georgetown life, because when everyone hears that you're from Guyana, they're from Georgetown. No, I'm just a regular girl that likes to enjoy the outdoors. And then when I was 10 years old, I moved to Linden, and that's where I attended the Mackenzie Primary School for 1 year. And then Common Entrance, the history of Common Entrance, I ended up going to Mackenzie High School. That's the school I really wanted to go to because I actually had passed for Queens College in Georgetown, but life didn't allow me to get to that path, but I attended a school that I wanted to go. Living in Linden was pretty quiet for me because initially I did not do a lot. I was just a girl that really concentrated or wanted to concentrate as much as possible on books, my schoolwork, and doing well because growing up, I grew up very poor. So for me, I saw that as my only journey out of poverty. So I believe I can't remember for as small as I was. I've always told myself that education was going to be my gateway out of poverty. So I tried as much as possible not to let anything distract me. But as I grew older, I began liking sports, getting involved in sports. I used to play volleyball. I really loved that quite a bit. And I tried to carry that on, but it was getting a little hard on the muscles and the bones as you get older.
Joys of getting older, yes.
Yes.
So did you used to do a lot of canoeing and stuff on the river back then?
No, we didn't have those. The river was just for us to, that was our shower. That was the place we washed our clothes. We washed our dishes. Canoe, no, we didn't have one of that. Ever so often, you would love to borrow someone's boat from people that lived across the river to just have a little fun. But of course, that was their mode of transportation, so they're not gonna let you play around with the boats too much. So that was not an opportunity.
I was just thinking, growing up next to the river, you would have become the captain there, but instead you became the captain of Airbuses. How wonderful is that you get to have all these adventures? So what motivated you to become a pilot?
Well, my first interaction with an airplane was actually a school tour at Mackenzie High School. That was, I believe, in Form 2. We had a tour at Ogle Airport, and out of the three classes, I believe I was the only one that really showed a little interest in the little two-seater aircraft. At that time, I did not know the name. I just saw a little tiny thing that they told me that this thing can go into the sky. what is this? It's a plane. And then I was really amused, and the instructor at the time invited me inside the aircraft, and he started pointing at buttons and all these wonderful things. And I saw at the time the propeller, he spun the propeller, and from there on, I was looking at this thing in amazement, because first time in my life I've ever seen an aircraft. So, but I kept thinking about this, but growing up poor, you weren't even allowed to dream that far, because how do you get from where you are to flying a plane? But I thought about it for a couple of years, and I decided I'm going to put that to the back of my head. And but the one thing I realized every time I heard a helicopter, which I've never flown a helicopter, but ever so often you would hear the helicopters, I always kept out running outside to look at it. I was so amazed at it. So eventually, when I became a flight attendant at Liat, and I really looked at the cockpit again for the airplanes, I was like, this is what I want to do, for sure. For sure. I just want to fly this thing.
You don't want to be the attendant, you want to be the captain.
Yeah.
For sure. But that's the thing, you know, it resonated with you from such a little girl. And then it didn't matter what your circumstances were, you always had it. It was always going to be that way. You know, you were always keeping your hopes and your dreams alive. Obviously, the attendant was just being a stepping stone to taking the driver's seat, or the pilot's seat, as one should say. So, I mean, what was a defining moment when you were like, I'm going to go for this?
I would say after about a year of being a flight attendant, because even being a flight attendant or getting the opportunity to become a flight attendant was no easy task at the time. It's not something I even dreamt that I would do, because being a flight attendant, you have to be pretty outgoing, very talkative. I was never that person. I was never outgoing or very talkative when I was growing up at all. I was just very straight. Most persons told me, you look like you could be in the army. But I always just had one vision, and that is getting schoolwork done. But once I became a flight attendant, it is actually, yes, you have to be outgoing, but the training for the safety aspects of the passengers, which a lot of people don't know, it requires a lot of safety training. And just knowing that, especially when there's an evacuation, there's a lot of coordination between the pilots and the flight attendants. And from the time of hearing that, I just wanted to learn more about what the pilots did up front. And from then I started asking a lot of questions, asking the pilots a lot of questions. And they said, hey, if you really want to know if this is made for you, what you have to do, you have to book a discovery flight. That's what it's called. So I saved up some money, went to St. Thomas and booked a discovery flight, because they do what you call some maneuvers with you, and you either will fly a plane or you wouldn't, because they put you in some what you call upset recovery maneuvers. And if you're scared, if you're a person, as we like to say in the Caribbean, if you have a bad heart, it's not for you.
Not for you.
People decide, okay, that's not for me. That's too scary. So
well, talking about scary, I'm not a fan of flying. So what would you tell your passengers if they feel like me? I mean, is it really that easy and smooth? We have nothing to worry about?
Yes, usually. I think most people, they're afraid of turbulence. If you've ever been on a boat, much less a speedboat, I just say it's the invisible waves, the same waves that you would experience on a boat. That's what you experience in the air. So that's
when you went on that into that test, you had fun. There was no fear there. You're like, I got this.
Oh, definitely, yes. Oh, yes. And even before I went to flight school, I kept booking some more flights. And yeah, I knew that's what I wanted to do. So,
And was this all this while being a mom? And,
oh, of course, yes.
and you
I
wife?
have 3 kids. My stepson, Kyle, he's 24. Ariel, my daughter, she's 18, and my son Ryan, he is going to be 14 soon. So yes, aviation and being a mom usually it doesn't go together because you're always gone. And my husband as well, who's a pilot as well. So it's double jeopardy when it comes to being gone. But I guess you negotiate with your kids, and I think you have to be really strong, to be honest, especially the first time I had to leave my kids after delivering, going back to work. That was not the easiest thing.
I can't imagine. It's hard enough for a mom on the ground, much less one up there. So, like soaring above us, but you did it. And I'm sure it's not easy to do, but it is part of your dream. It's part of what you've always wanted when you heard the helicopters, above you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what subjects would, for anyone out there who's thinking of following their dreams, what would be some of the subjects you would think someone has to have under their belt to become a pilot?
While I think some of the sciences help you a bit, even in high school, I did not choose the subjects that they said was necessary as science. But my advice for anyone, mathematics, most pilots would tell you science, but at the end of the day, it's not difficult as it seems to learn the science behind flying. But mathematics, that is a definite necessary subject. It's something that you have to be good at. And for anyone, I say in mathematics is not made for geniuses. It's just practice, and more practice. Because flying involves a lot of mathematics in your everyday life. For instance, one simple thing, calculation of your fuel. Although they have a lot of technology, you have to coordinate, you have to confirm that you have your correct fuel. And these will come, you will get your fuel in different countries and different measurements, and you have to do conversions. You have to know how to do your conversions. Or for instance, when it comes to, because not all the aircrafts come with all these technology, you have to calculate what you call your ground speed. You have to calculate your miles to your distance, how long it's going to take you based on your headwind or your tailwind or your true air speed. You need mathematics for that.
Yeah, lots of formulas, I'm sure.
Yes.
And I'm sure you got those down pat. Everyone's safe. All the pilots, I'm sure. So what's your favorite destination so far?
I honestly don't have a favorite.
Everywhere's your favorite, as long as you're flying.
Yes, because what I've learned is that I've learned to enjoy every single different culture, and I embrace the different culture that you will meet. And you also have a mindset of wherever I go, I try to learn as much as possible from the culture. So I don't think I have, even the Caribbean islands, I would not say I have a favorite at all.
It's hard to pick one.
Yes, it depends on what you want.
Yeah,
It
I do
depends.
agree with you. There's so much beauty in the world. We only have to,
Yes,
put ourselves out there to be able to experience it. And one of the best ways to experience it is doing what you do. You go all over the
yeah,
world, you get to experience people, the culture, the foods,
yes.
the everything, every part of it. So in terms of like, how many hours a week do you normally fly?
Well, it's not per week. You have what you call a control period. That's in a 28 days. Depends. Because flying could be, you could fly a minimal number of hours and you still what you call on duty for a long time because if you do like in Liat, sometimes you could do a lot of hops and every single stop that you make, you have to carry out the same amount of checks every sector. So that in itself would lengthen your duty day. So while you're not actually airborne, you're working, or you can get a sector, a 4.5 hour sector, and that is it for the day. And your duties, although you might have flown a lot longer, 4.5 hours, one sector, you would have done maybe just about 6 hours of duty, whereas you could have done 1.5 hour flying and you did a whole 12-hour duty. So it depends. But for the year, we're not allowed to fly more than we fly an average of about 600 hours a year.
So I've always been curious to know, what are the pilots doing up there while the plane's cruising?
Checks, and checks. Yes, on a very long sector, you can probably get bored.
Yeah, I've always wondered that. Like, what exactly are they playing chess up there? Are they
Not quite, actually. You're not even allowed to read your own magazines or anything like that because what happened? Things are constantly changing. For instance, if you're going, let's say, from New York to Guyana, during
right?
that time, you would have crossed what you call different airspaces of different persons. Sorry, of different airports, if you want to call that. And you have to report. You also have to be constantly updating your fuel. You have to be updating your company. You have to be updating.
So
your
every time an airplane goes over another country, you have to check it.
Oh yes, oh yes, and
Oh, wow.
and not only a country. Sometimes in one airspace, you might have checked in at least 6 times.
Oh,
So
wow.
like because there's so many traffic, if you look at one of those apps, sometimes you can have like 8, 10, 12,000 airplanes in the same area. So you have what you call different controllers have different sectors. So you have to constantly be changing your sectors. So you will have in one airspace, you can talk to about 10 different controllers and you have to keep updating all your information. Not only that, in your journey, you also have to be constantly be updating yourself as to which is the closest airport, the closest suitable airport. If you have an issue, I would say you could have a problem that is not required to be, it's not an emergency,
Right.
but you are required to land. You could have an emergency now where you have to land ASAP. Sorry?
You ever had that happen?
Yes, I have.
So that brings me to this question. How, with all that happening, because you're responsible for so many people on your Airbuses, so how do you keep yourself physically and mentally fit?
Mentally, that's a personal decision that you have to make, I believe, along with training. Training, you have to have proper training to make sure that you're taught your correct procedure, but the onus is also upon you to realize that you have people's lives in your hands. That's the first thing I always say. The last thing I want to do is to have made a decision that could have caused an accident, or I could have avoided an accident that caused someone their life. But I was lackadaisical. So the onus is upon you, one, and then your training. Physically, for me, exercise is, I treat it as if I'm breathing. Because no matter how tired I am, because what I realize that once you exercise, your brain is actually, it operates 10 times better. You could feel so tired and then you go do an intense workout and you have energy to last you another couple of hours. So that is extremely important, not just for flying, but just to be able to keep up being a wife, being a mother, a career.
It is true. And there is a glow that comes with working out, like
yes,
a certain radiance that comes with it. And it keeps your heartbeat up. So you can handle all the stresses much easier when you're able to do that, keep your activeness up for sure. Yes, we both know being mommy and being a parent and being a wife is no fun.
yes.
Always have to be on the go, along with juggling everything else in life. So what are some of the fun moments of flying?
For me, actually, fun moments of flying. I love to mentor a lot. Having that student, even though may not be a student in flight school, having that student finally get something after you've taught them quite a bit is, for me, that's the fun time for me. I'm not one of those persons that I don't do a lot of adventure. So, but I try.
The adventure would have gone hand in hand.
No, I am not as adventurous, but for me, I wouldn't say it has to do with flying, but for me, I love hiking, so that's where I go out.
Yeah.
I love the outdoors, but the actual flying part for me, the best time is just seeing that student really, really finally getting what you taught them, especially if there's a student that struggled quite a bit, because I actually like the challenge of taking students or pilots that struggled. So that.
Are you an instructor too?
Not officially, but I have been, both my husband and I, we've, if you want to say, established ourselves in a company as someone we've always mentored, whether new pilots or pilots who want to upgrade to captaincy.
Right.
So we've always been that well, I guess. And I guess for them, it's sometimes fun to have information coming from two individuals in the same household. And not only that, for me, I'm a stickler for what you call standard operating procedures. I don't deviate from the book. So if you want to learn something, you come to me. So because I don't deviate.
Processes, systems, this is what makes us very successful. It's great to think outside of the box, but there's some things that systems and processes, regardless, they become part of your life. That's formulate a lot. Venessa, I know that you growing up in Linden, and we've had an opportunity to talk. So you being a mentor for and wanting so much, I think anyone who wants to be a mentor always has a passion because they want better and they see something better in sometimes people that are struggling, because those who understand it best are those who went through it. And so because we've gone through it, we understand what it's like to keep motivating and giving hope and enabling and encouraging someone to live their dreams. So what would be, you think, what was it that the driving force, or what do you find you resonate with a lot of people you're meeting in terms of wanting to take the next step but just quite not sure how to do it in any career in life?
Well, for me, I think the passion for mentoring actually came because growing up, I did not have much people to believe in me. To be honest, I did not grow up hearing, you can do this, you got this, I know you have it in you. I did not have that around me. And even as a flight attendant, when I had shared my dreams of becoming a pilot with several people, I had individuals laughed in my face, like, who, you? You're a pilot? But that did not discourage me. That actually
Motivate.
drove me more because I knew that this is something I wanted to do. I knew I can do it as well as anyone else. And unfortunate for women in the aviation industry, we have to prove ourselves 10 times more than the men. And that's just the harsh reality. I don't let it bother me, but at the same time, I want to make sure that I tell students, especially girls, I have a passion for mentoring girls, young girls, because I see myself in them. So I just want to hold, when I see them looking hopeless, I just want to shake them and say, hey, it's going to be fine. You just have to keep working and believing in yourself. Some days you're going to have, not some days, lots of days you're going to have doubts. You're going to have tears when things don't work out. I tell people, you cry, wipe your eyes, get up and go again. Work.
Yeah, we talked about that yesterday. It's that moment when you just face yourself, you accept it as where you're at, and then you just keep taking the next step. I think the best thing sometimes people can tell you is that you can't do something because it just causes such a fire inside of you. When we were talking yesterday about the inner ninja, it just comes out. You're just like, you're ready to conquer everything. My favorite thing is always, I like to say to anyone who tells me, probably the same like you, when someone tells you you can't, I would say, watch me.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Watch me do it. Like, no way. So I want to say that we're very proud of you. Like, you have achieved exactly what you wanted to as a young girl, and you'll continue to achieve more. Because I have a gut feeling you're not done with being an instructor or anything like that. I feel like you're on that path, and it's probably on the list of things that you want to achieve for yourself. I know that we're kind of, coming to the end of our interview, and you have to go off and do the motherly role.
Yes.
And it definitely was such a pleasure. And I know that in this journey of life, because life is not fair, that you've even faced and shared with me that during your journey of being a pilot for how many years?
24 years. Yes, I've been in the aviation business for 27 years, so 24 years.
Remarkable. That's a remarkable achievement in itself. And I know you shared with me that you had one moment in time when it was the hardest. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Yes, well, for me, I've had lots of hard moments from flight school, but I think one of the defining moments for me was 2 years ago, and I'm sure everyone in the world experienced the harsh reality of COVID, when both me and my husband, after giving our company 23 years, both of us were laid off. But honestly, at the time, I thought that my career as a pilot was basically over because the choices that were available meant that sometimes as mothers and wives, we have to make the choices of choosing between career and family. And I was not about to choose my career over my family. But being unemployed for 2 years, I actually did not really make that put me down. I actually started my own food business. So, and my husband went back into construction, and then I decided, hey, I'm gonna go experience another side of aviation and become a flight operations inspector. But sometimes we said, when is the worst moment when we think, this is the hardest time in life, or when we've been knocked down, when we don't think we'll be able to get back up. Sometimes God have alternative plans for you, and he said, here, this is the opportunity, go flying, because that's where I want to. Flying for me is not only about doing something I love. For me, it's motivating others to, no matter what comes your way, because sometimes you will reach to the top of the mountain and realize, hey, something or someone pushed you down and you have to climb back another mountain. And you just have to do it, with grace and being grateful. I think being grateful is extremely important. Instead of seeing what you don't have, always look at what you have. So for me, the next step for me is to make sure that I can motivate and even mentor as many persons as possible, not just in aviation, but it's in all other aspects of life. Aviation is just a minor part of my life in doing this.
Well, it's such a pleasure being able to do this with you. And also, like water, you continue to adapt. And I'm sure everybody that you come across has been helped in some way by your wonderful story, but also the journey itself that you've had to go on. And a reminder that no matter when you think you've had to overcome so many obstacles along the way, there's always going to be things that are going to test you, because life is not fair. It doesn't owe you anything. Nothing's going to go, just because you work hard doesn't mean you're going to get what
Correct.
you think you're going to get. There's always going to be reminders that you have to continue working hard, to continue to remain grateful, even for the bad times, because
yes, indeed.
yes, even for the bad times, because that means even better times are coming. It's funny because all those bad times become such memories, like they start to fade, and you almost forget that you actually went through them until you have a conversation like the one we had yesterday.
Oh, yes.
Where you kind of remember, oh my God, all the obstacles we had to get through to become women where we are today, or to become the person that you are today, mom and wife and everything else in the industry is. So we're extremely proud of you, and we're even more so proud to see that, like, the Phoenix rising, you're back in the air, you're having fun and flying everyone all over the place, and you're doing so well. And I can't wait to try some of your granola bars one day. And I'm sure we'll be in touch, because you're going to be based in the States. And believe it or not, I'm landing for the first time in Houston in a couple of months, en route to Guyana. So definitely hope we get to meet one day and continue our chat from yesterday. But Venessa, it has been a pleasure. Any closing words at all of inspiration?
Closing words. Always believe in yourself, even at times you may not think that you can, and be grateful. Always be grateful. That is something that carried me through every tough moment. And it's the hardships that we've all gone through that makes us into the individuals that we are to handle the future. So that's my advice to everyone. And it's been so wonderful catching up with you, Armina. I could not believe that it's been since 1994, maybe 1992.
Since 1994, almost 30 years.
Yes, the last time I remembered we were in class together was 3 Emerald. So, and then I went to 4B. I can't remember which one you went to.
It was, we shared about this yesterday, about while we were students in Mackenzie High School, not realizing as 2 young girls, and this might actually resonate with so many men and women out there that are now adults. But when we were little girls, we didn't realize that we each went home to so many unknowns in terms of struggles that we were going through. And so for me, I can't really half the time remember much about Mackenzie High School, except that I did well in school and I carried on, because I too, like you, believe that you had to have education regardless of what your parents' plans were for you or whoever, that the education was going to set you free somehow.
Yes.
It was going to set you on a pathway, or your personality, or you have the power within you no matter what. And so when we were having our conversation, the fact that we had so many commonalities as
Correct.
little
Yeah, it
girls
was
in
so
terms
amazing
of-
to hear your story as well. And I mean, and we both sat there in the same class, not knowing what each other's lives, what each other's struggles were.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing that sometimes you think that you're the only person going through this struggle, and then you eventually speak up. But that's another thing I would encourage people to try to speak up. Don't let people's judgments of you stop you from speaking or being your true self. I'm not saying if
No.
you have an attitude of being mean to individuals that's your true self. But I'm saying your struggles that you're going through, don't be afraid to speak to anyone and open up. Some people can be trusted, some can't, but that's the risk. But I think it's good that persons around you, and you can even have a little bit of healing if you know that someone else is going through the same thing, and you can strengthen each other. But that's something we never knew. But as adults, we know that now, and we can speak about it. We can still be each other's strength.
I think we were that yesterday.
Yes.
I think we ended our phone call with not being able to do it when we were little girls, 14, 15, but we certainly did while I was in my car and you were in your car, and we were driving and sharing
doing the mommy stuff again.
it was actually a lot of defining moments in that one conversation yesterday. So definitely a sisterhood, and I felt it from you and everything you said, and I know it resonated back. But it is so true to remember that you're not alone in anything that you do in this life. There is silently someone going through the same thing as you, and more so still understanding that there is a rainbow out there, and you just have to keep following it. And there's good things in this world. We have to keep remembering that every single thing you struggle about will have, it's not that you have to expect it, because sometimes we struggle and we get nothing, but just knowing that if you keep struggling, your dream one day, keep the hope alive, that it will happen. And then all the little girls and boys out there just understand that what you're going through right now, years from now, it might no longer matter. It'll become a fading memory until you have a conversation and you remember it all over again.
A passing moment. So
a passing moment. Yes. Well, certainly a pleasure, Venessa, and I look forward to chatting with you.
Oh, definitely.
A lot more outside of the Voices of Linden. And to everyone at home, enjoy your afternoon, and it was great having you with us. All right, my dear, take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, Armina. Good night.
Good night.